All right, so we are now working with compound inequalities. Compound inequalities have two endpoints, and the solutions are either between those two endpoints or on the outside of two endpoints. For these examples, these first two here, I know that these solutions are going to be between two endpoints because the way that the inequality is set up, it's set up in like a sandwich inequality where there's going to be numbers on both sides. When I see it set up like this, I know that this inequality is an AND inequality. The only way it would be an OR inequality would be like if it looks like the third one. The third one has the actual word OR in it, so I know the answers will be pointing on the outsides of the two endpoints. Because the first and second one are set up so that there's two inequality symbols and the variables in the center, and it's like sandwiched in between two endpoints, I know the answers are going to be between two endpoints. To solve an inequality like this, you have to solve two inequalities. So each problem has two inequalities to solve. When you're solving this, you would solve the first inequality, block off the second part, and the first one you're going to solve is -4 is less than x minus 2. That's the first one. Then the second one, you block off the front, and then you would solve from the middle to the outside, which is x minus 2 is less than 3. So you're solving both of these separately, which will give you two answers, which will help you find your two endpoints, and the answers will be in between them. To solve these, pretty simple for this one, you're just adding 2 to both sides. -4 plus 2 is -2. So one of my endpoints is -2. And then the other endpoint, when I add 2 to both sides here, we're going to get x is less than 5. So I know that I need -2 on my number line, and I need 5 on my number line. Then you determine what type of circles to use. So this inequality says -2 is less than x. Whenever you have less than or greater than symbols, these circles are open. So I know that we would have an open circle here and an open circle here. This answer is going to be in between the two endpoints, and I can tell from the actual problem in the very beginning, because it's set up like that, I know the answers are going to be between them. Also, if you read what this says -2 is less than all of the other numbers. Or if you read it from right to left, this says x is greater than -2. Anything greater than -2 is to the right. This says x is less than 5. Anything less than 5 is to the left. Your solutions are in the center. If I was to take this and drag it and put it on top of this, I could write this as one inequality by saying -2 is less than x, which is also less than 5. That's the way you would write your answer in one single inequality. The second example is similar to the first in that you have to solve two separate inequalities. When you do this, you start at the left-hand side, you would write this number, the less than symbol, and then you would write in this part and then stop. The first inequality we have is -3 is less than -2x plus 1. We're going to solve that inequality, and then the second inequality, you start at the middle, and you write everything to the right of it. What's the second inequality we would have to solve in this one? What's the second inequality? The first one is -3 is less than -2x plus 1. What's the second one? Anyone? So the second one, you block off the front, and it's going to be -2x plus 1 is less than or equal to 9. So notice where we're getting these from. We're getting them from the separate parts of the inequality. This compound inequality has two parts. The first part is the first number with the middle. The second one is the middle with the second number. Then we solve both of these inequalities the same way because they both have the same stuff going on. They have +1 and they have -2 here. So we subtract 1 from both sides to solve this one first. -3 minus 1 more is -4. So we're left with -4 is less than -2x. And then when I solve this, I divide everything by -2. Just be very careful with dividing by negatives. A -4 divided by -2 is a +2. When we divide by a negative, we must flip the sign. It's going to turn into that. And we have x on this side. And then the next one, we're subtracting 1 from both sides. We get negative 2x is less than or equal to 8. Dividing by negative 2, I get x, and the sign flips again. 8 divided by negative 2 is a negative 4. So the two numbers we need on our graph is negative 4 and 2. These have different symbols. So we have to look at the symbols that we have in the problem to determine what type of circles we will have. And this says 2 is greater than x, which is the same thing as x is less than 2. We would need an open circle around 2 because 2 is not a solution. However, what type of circle would we need around the negative 4?
Closer.
Closed. This one is included because of the greater than or equal to symbol. So anything greater than or equal to negative 4 is to the right. Anything less than 2 is to the left. The answers are between like that. And then one way to write this in one single inequality is by writing negative 4 and 2, putting x in the middle. Anything less than 2 or greater than or equal to negative 4 would look like that. The only other example we have to do before you guys are going to try some on your own is an or compound inequality. So or compound inequalities are different because instead of the answers being in between two endpoints, they're going to be on the outside of two endpoints. So notice the word or is actually in this problem. The word or says we have to solve this first one and then we solve the second one, and I know the answers are going to be facing the positive and negative infinity symbol. So the first inequality we need to solve is this one right here. So this one says 3y minus 5 is less than negative 8. The second one we'll write down later, and we'll just solve this one first. Now when we solve these, you usually will solve totally different inequalities because they don't share that same middle part. They're just two separate ones. Solving this one, I would get rid of the minus 5 by adding 5 to both sides. I get 3y is less than negative 8 plus 5 is negative 3. And then I would divide by the number in front of y, which is 3. The sign does not flip. I know that I have a negative as my answer. I know that I'm taking a negative 3 and dividing it, but you only flip the sign when you divide by an actual negative number. So then the sign does not flip because we divide it by a positive number. So I know that I need negative 1 on my graph, but before I do that, I'm going to solve this one as well. The second one I need to solve is 2y minus 1 is greater than 5. Solving this one separately using different steps, I would add 1 to both sides. I get 2y is greater than 6. And then I divide by 2. I get y is greater than 3. So the two numbers I need on my graph are negative 1 and positive 3. And then you graph these separately. To graph y is less than negative 1, since this is not a solution, it would be an open circle at negative 1. Anything less than it would be to the left. And y is greater than 3. This is also an open circle because it's not a solution, and the answers would be anything to the right. When you have or inequalities, your answers point to the outside. They're not going to be in between the two endpoints. They're going to be on the outside. That's how it works. And inequalities, the answers are in between. So what I want you guys to do now, there's 3 practice problems. I know we did breakout rooms a couple times, but I want you guys to just work either independently if you're at home, or if you're here in school, you can work together on numbers 1, 2, and 3. Then we'll go over these answers, and then we'll end with a Quizlet.